Welcome to another episode of your daily database insights. At this point, you have figured out how to log into your SQL Server database, and now you are on your SQL Server Management Studio and you see all this good stuff on your Object Explorer. Now, once you expand this databases folder here, there's going to be a few folders that you're going to see over here. Of course, when you expand the databases folder, you're going to see PeopleSoft database. This is a typical user database, but I want to introduce you to some system databases because this is very important for you to understand what these system databases do and whether you need to have a backup and recovery strategy for them in the event that you encounter a disaster or a situation. So the first system database on this list is the master database. This often records all of the system level information for this particular SQL Server environment. It is going to contain the login, credentials, and all that good stuff information. If you ever were to have a situation where you need to restore the master database, all it needs for you is to first start the SQL Server instance. Now, if it is able to start, then you will be able to restore the master database from, of course, a full database backup. And of course, you always want to make sure that you back up this database often, as much as you can, because this is where the brain of your SQL Server instance really lies. Now, the model database. The model database is considered like a template for all the databases that you're going to be creating on this environment. So, for instance, if you want all the databases that you're creating to have a specific configuration, they're going to be baked into the model database, and you will have to have those predefined in the model database within acceptable limits so that every other database that you create is going to be spinned with the specific configuration that you need from the model database. And then we come to the MSDB database. The MSDB database is used by the SQL Server agent. Now, the SQL Server agent is a component that pretty much helps with scheduling, alerts, jobs, and of course, recording operators. The MSDB database, of course, since it's contain everything on the SQL agent, it's also going to be containing information regarding your proxies and stuff like that. So whenever you add a new job on your SQL Server instance, and of course you need to back up this database from time to time, because if you wanted to recover a SQL Server job, you're going to be recovering it by restoring an MSDB database. A SQL Server job in this case is a scheduled execution of a specific task that you want to run in a specific time in your database environment. We are coming to the temp database. The temp database is a temporary workspace for your result sets. This is where most of your data sorting and any other temporary objects are going to be held. So it's pretty much a temporary workspace. The temporary database cannot be backed up, and the temporary database is created every time the SQL Server instance is restarted or it starts. Now remember, we mentioned up there that the model is the template, so the temporary database is created based off of the model. If you ever want to change anything in the temp DB, you have to make sure that the model looks like what you want the temp DB to look like, and then you need to just restart. Then we have the resource database. This is pretty much a read-only database. This is gonna be located in the file system somewhere. You will not be able to back up this database, and this resource database pretty much contains all the copies of all the system objects that you will be interacting with from time to time. So whenever you run any system object, know that it resides on your resource database. And then lastly, we have the distribution database. This here is also a system database, and it only appears on your SQL Server instance if you have configured replication distributor. So it stores the metadata and history data for all types of replication and the transactions for those specific replication. It's important to back this up if it is needed for your basic disaster recovery as well. And for the most part, you will be having these databases configured for a specific recovery model, and you can range your recovery model based on, we have different types of recovery models. We have the simple recovery model, we have the full recovery model, and then we have the backlog recovery model. And these dictate the type of recovery that you're going to be able to, or the type of restoration that you're going to be able to have in the event that you have a disaster. So yeah, so these are basically your system databases. And if you know anybody who needs more information about this, you must show them this video. If you still need to understand these system databases way better, then leave a comment on the chat section and I will be able to point you in the right direction. Thank you.